Yeah. No. Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe. Yeah. It's not a great deal of space in this. Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to the 7-seat VW Tayron. Whether it's got 7 seats or not is debatable, to be honest. Oh, old man noises again. Yes, the VW Tayron. Now, I went out to Germany last year to see this car, and a couple of things. Firstly, I remember it being quite tight for space in the back of the 7-seat version, but I didn't film with the 7-seat version. I didn't spend very long with it. Safe to say, it is technically 7 seats, but we'll get to that bit in a moment. The other thing is I didn't remember it being quite so big. Now, the number 7 is very important to this car. Not only is there a 7-seat option, which we have on test today, but it also comes with 7 different engine options. Not motor options, engine options. So for all of the petrol heads out there, you will be pleased to know there is no battery electric version of the Tayron. It has a couple of plug-in hybrid options. It's got a couple of petrol engine options, a couple of diesel options, and it's got the engine or powertrain that we have in this car, which is a 1.5 litre petrol engine with a 48 volt mild hybrid system. So there's plenty to talk about from a drivetrain perspective. So the number 7 is important. This would be the perfect car for any David Beckham fan, the Manchester United era David Beckham, or a proper football player, my hero when I was growing up as a kid, Kenny Dalglish, because both of those players obviously wore the number 7 on the back of their jersey. When I saw the car last year, it was in a static environment, and it's very difficult to gain anything other than an appreciation for its design, how it's built, and what the materials are like, and inside space and those types of things. We weren't able to drive the car, and that was quite frustrating because I had a feeling that this was going to be a really interesting car. I've mentioned already, it's way bigger than I remember it being, so we're going to get to put it through its paces for sure this week. Now, before we carry on talking about the VW Tayron, I want to have a chat about dash cams, because I do like trying out different types and form factors of dash cam. And this week I've been trying out the Wolfbox G900 Pro. It is a mirror mounted dash cam. So before I tell you about its functionality, let's see what you get in the box. Open up the box to reveal the main dash cam unit itself, with its 12-inch touchscreen on the front and camera on the back. There's a power cable, a GPS sensor and its cable, and the rear camera and its cable. These rubber straps help connect the main unit to the mirror and clip on the back like so. Finally, there's a cleaning cloth, some cable tidies, and a fitting tool. So first up, it's really easy to install. There are 3 connections on the top. One wire going to a GPS sensor, another wire going to the rear camera, and a final wire to the 12 volt power supply. And then you can just tuck all the wires up into your trim. There's a tool provided. And then there are 2 rubber straps that just hook this mirror onto your rear view mirror. It effectively replaces your rear view mirror. The 12-inch screen is really easy to navigate. It has touch screen. You can go into the settings menu. You can change the display. You can have it just showing the front camera, just showing the rear camera, or like I've got it here, showing both front and rear. Really, really simple. The Wolfbox G900 Pro has a 4K front-facing camera and 2.5K rear-facing camera. The IMX sensor with 8 megapixels provides enhanced daytime clarity. 2 DNR and 3 DNR noise reduction technology also ensures clearer nighttime footage and reduced glare. So if you want to access any of the video or images that your Wolfbox has taken, first thing, you download an app to your smartphone. The Wolfbox comes with a 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi connection, so you link your device and then you can access all of your footage using a really high-speed data connection. All of the video comes with location and speed information, and if you want to make use of hands-free voice commands as you're driving along, you can just ask the Wolfbox to do things like take picture. That will then be stored on the data card and you can download it. Last couple of things, the system has a G sensor, and if that's triggered, the footage leading up to that point will be locked and stored on the data card. And there's also a parking monitor, although it's worth noting that in order for that to work, you really need to hardwire the system in. And if I was having this all the time in my car, I would definitely take the time to get it hardwired in, because the installation will look so much neater. Now, if you're interested in a Wolfbox of your own, I'm going to put a link in the description below. You can buy it from Amazon, and using the discount code in the description below, you'll be able to get 25% off of your Wolfbox. A really innovative and very high quality dash cam. Anyway, now let's get back to the Tayron review. Now, the first thing to note about this car is it's really long, 4.8 meters. And from a distance, it really does look like a kind of stretch limo met an SUV. That should give, though, much better access into the rear compartment and also access into the third row of seats, but I'm going to come to that in a little while. The trim that we've got on test this week is the R Line, so that is the top spec of the sporty trim. However, if you've watched any of my VW reviews of R Line cars, you will know I am really not a fan of that. Just having the R there, for me, cheapens the R variant of the cars. And having been out in Sweden only just a couple of months ago driving Golf Rs, the 300 plus horsepower, four-wheel drive, brilliant hot hatches, that's where the R should be. I think either you're going to put line, which they used to do, or just get rid of those badges altogether. Anyway, rant over. But it is a very long car. When you come round the front, and again, when I was in Hamburg, I kind of mentioned this, there's some really nice things going on, which on a bright sunny day like today, I'm not going to be able to show you. But this is an illuminated light strip that runs all the way across the front of the car. The actual VW badge lights up as well. And I think the front end of the car kind of sits in that family really well, sort of the Tiguan, Touareg type family. Now, I am a particularly big Touareg fan, and my challenge with this car so far is I need to be convinced why I would buy one of these rather than going for the Touareg, apart from the obvious one, which is a price point of view. But we'll get to pricing a bit later. Now, let's have a chat about this drivetrain. Firstly, it's great to see a petrol engine in there. It's a transversely mounted 1.5 litre, 4-cylinder petrol engine, but it has a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So basically, it's got a small lithium-ion battery and a 48-volt motor generator unit that really replaces the alternator and starter motor. And that mild hybrid system is there to aid efficiency and smooth running. This car has no all EV capability or EV only running at all. The numbers aren't massively spectacular. So it's got 150 PS and just 250 Newton meters. Now, to put that into context, my Mini, although it has been modified, is running best part of 400 Newton meters. So it's not got the most amount of power and torque. The vehicle itself weighs 1,723 kilos. So it's not massively heavy, but with this kind of power, that means the performance numbers, again, aren't going to be anything to write home about. This car will do 0 to 60 in 9.4 seconds and tops out at 127 miles an hour. So I think this engine choice is very much aimed around someone who is interested in fuel efficiency. Now we're going to put that to the test tomorrow because we're going to take this car on a nice long drive. For me personally, this wouldn't be the engine I would go for. I'd be much more interested in the plug-in hybrid version of Tayron because it gives you that option of all electric running around towns. And the great thing about VW plug-in hybrids is they tend to have quite a decent amount of all electric running, around about 100 kilometers or 60 odd miles on the electric motor. The challenge though is I really wanted to test the 7-seat version of Tayron, and you can't get the 7-seat version with the plug-in hybrid because the plug-in hybrid has a much bigger battery pack and that goes underneath the boot floor, and that means you can't get the third row of seats in there. I don't think that's so much of an issue because personally I would prioritise the plug-in hybrid option over 7 seats anyway. As I've already showed, the 7-seat configuration is really an emergency third row of seats for small children, or if you've desperately got to take someone a very short distance. There's so little room in the back. I don't think it's a major option for long distance driving with 7 people in the car. But an interesting powertrain. I'll be interested to see what kind of efficiency we get out of it tomorrow. Now, if you want to tow with one of these, the maximum braked trailer weight is 1,800 kilos. So I guess that's big enough for a small caravan. Boot space wise, so we've got 3 numbers really. So with the third row of seats up, you've got 345 litres of boot space. If you drop the third row of seats and keep the middle row of seats up, that goes to 850 litres. And then finally, if you drop the middle row of seats, you've got 1,905 litres. So with all the seats down, it's a big load carrying car. I'm just not sure this third row is really worth the extra effort. But let's jump in as a passenger and just quickly show you what that's like. Now, I'm pretty sure I remarked on my previous video that the rear space in the back was pretty good in the 5-seat version. This seat does move up and down, but I've got it all the way back and I've got this seat where I would want it as a driver, and I've got okay amounts of room. My knees are touching the seat. So with that 7-seat configuration, you do pay a small penalty in the middle row of seats, I think. But trim level's really nice. This car just needs a panoramic roof because it's really dark in here. I must say that this R Line trim looks really smart. These seats are really nice. And there's a really good choice of materials, bit of Alcantara, some nice stitching, bits of leather. It's really nice. Very big infotainment screen, mostly controlled by touch. The latest versions of VW infotainment systems have got so much better than the old ones, but it's still not there for me because there's just no real button, especially when it comes to climate control. I love this little kind of movable flap here. You've got 2 pads for charging mobiles there, so you have 2 phones on charge, 2 connected to the Bluetooth, only 1 can be connected to CarPlay. You've got this little kind of jog wheel that helps you control a few of the things on there, but all in all, it's a really nice place to be. So the next thing I'm going to do tomorrow, need to leave quite early, I'm going to drive down to 50s to do some filming, and I thought it would be a brilliant backdrop, the journey down there, because it's a couple of hours each way, to put some miles on this car and just see what kind of fuel efficiency we're going to get. And also there are a couple of roads that we're going to go on that are actually really good fun to drive, and what will the performance be like? Can it put a smile on my face? It's now the next day and you join me at the end of a very long day. I left home quite early this morning and had just shy of 2.5 hour drive all the way over to Bath to see my good friends at 50 Supercars, and then all day I've been filming with a beautiful Ferrari 348 Spider. That video will be coming to the channel very soon. And now I've got 2.5 hour journey home. And for me, that's what this car is brilliant at. It is such a good car to do long journeys and be as untired as possible at the end of it. It's just so smooth, so easy to drive, relaxing, comfortable, quiet, all the things that you want from a big family car. The downside of that is it doesn't come with a huge amount of emotion and driving pleasure and engagement. That's not to say it's not nippy, it just does a different job to the kind of cars I normally like. Now, when I was talking to you about the drivetrain in this car, I was pretty uncomplimentary really. 150 horsepower, 250 newton meters. I kind of said with the weight of car, the performance wasn't all that. But actually, when you drive it, it translates into quite a fun car in many respects. It certainly doesn't feel slow. It doesn't feel underpowered. When you start to push on a little bit, the engine does start to complain, its revs rise and it feels a little bit strained. But under normal driving conditions, it really doesn't. It doesn't lack for that kind of performance. Where you might want a little bit more oomph is in that overtaking zone. I haven't actually had to do much of that on the way down this morning and on the way home, although I've got lots of traffic now. I'd love to overtake some stuff. But the fascinating thing is fuel economy. Because on the journey down this morning, I wasn't driving like Miss Daisy, I just drove normally. I had a mix of A and B roads, some dual carriageway, a little bit of motorway, and I averaged 43.5 miles per gallon. 43.5 miles per gallon in a car of this size with the petrol engine that it's got. That's remarkable. Such a good number for a car of this size. Now, if you pushed on a little bit more, if you wanted to kind of make progress a little bit more, then I think you're in the kind of late 30s. At the moment, I'm only 22 miles into the journey and I'm averaging 37.5. But the fuel efficiency of this car is very, very impressive. Now, interestingly, that coming to a stop, that's one of the things I do want to have a chat about, because one of the things I'm struggling to get on with in this car are the brakes. When you just come to a stop, they're not so bad. It's not that they haven't got the power. They'll stop the car, but I'm finding it really difficult to drive smoothly, to brake in a consistent way all the way down to when the car comes to a stop. What I normally like to try and do is, as I'm coming to a junction, just as you're starting to get to the end of the braking phase and you want to stop, I normally lift the brake pressure off a little bit so that you don't get that jerk at the end when the car comes to a stop. And what I'm finding with these brakes is I'm finding it really hard to be able to do that and maintain smooth braking. It kind of almost feels a little bit jerky. It's almost like the servo's on and off and on and off. And I don't like it, if I'm honest. So the brake feel in the car, as I said, it's not a case of them not having enough power. The car will stop perfectly well. It's got ABS and all those types of things. But just under normal driving, if you want to drive smoothly, which I try and do as much as I can, for me, the brakes in this, right at the end of the braking phase, I struggle with. The other thing is it's got one of those crash detection, car in front stopping quicker than you like, collision avoidance systems, and it's a little bit keen to please. It's done it to me a couple of times when I have the situation perfectly under control. I've seen, there you go, it's literally just done it there. I don't actually know what it did it for. It couldn't have happened at a better time. The seatbelt pre-tensioner goes off, and that there was nothing there at all. I was covering the brake because there was some traffic on the other side of the road and we were going through with cars in front and so on, but the car suddenly decided that there was a possible collision and it slams the brakes on, puts an audible alarm on, a big screen shines red in front of you, and the seatbelt pre-tensioner goes off. And it does that quite a lot and it's really bloody annoying. Foot flat to the floor. Sounds all right. right, I suppose. But there we go. So that's up to dual carriageway speeds. And then once you're there, it just sits at cruise at 70 miles an hour. I'm doing 2,100 RPM, nice and relaxed. Now, while I'm driving along, I want to have a brief chat about that screen because, first up, it's huge, which in some respects isn't a bad thing because that is the biggest Apple CarPlay display I've ever used. It's massive. It's really easy to use. It's tilted in towards me. And if you're using Apple CarPlay, then brilliant. I haven't used the native sat-nav from VW, and I'm sure some people are going to have a go at me for not doing that. The lack of physical buttons, first things first, volume, you can slide your finger up and down the volume just there, or there are a couple of buttons on the steering wheel. I just used a couple of buttons on the steering wheel. In terms of climate control, there is a top and bottom of this screen, there's like a set of programmable widgets and shortcuts, and all the way along the bottom are my HVAC controls, my climate control. So I can kind of passenger and driver can just slide their finger up and down on the temperature controller. I've got my heated seats there, so it's not too bad, but I'd like them on physical buttons. Everything else, you have to start delving into the HMI, and I'm not a big fan, if I'm honest. There is this little button down here, it's like a little rotator. I can use that to do the volume as well, but if I push it down, then it can kind of scroll through. Firstly, I can scroll through my different driver profiles. I'm in comfort at the moment. I've been driving it in comfort most of the time. Let's put it into sport mode for the rest of the journey home. So that little button there, I think, could be better used. It could have some more functionality. So I'm not a million miles away from being home now, about half an hour. But interestingly, so I'm 75 miles into my journey, and I've been driving reasonably enthusiastically on the way home, because I want to get home basically, and I'm still averaging 40 miles to the gallon. So actually this car, on a longer journey, 40 is what you're going to get. And I think that is brilliant. So my thoughts on this car. I remember when I saw it in a static environment. I like the styling, I like the looks from the outside, although as I said at the beginning of this film, when you've now got it out in the wild, it's a much bigger car than I remember it being. I think the 7-seat configuration, whilst appealing to some customers, has its limitations. I think it's nice to have. It's like an emergency. I remember I had a Land Rover Discovery, and that had 7 seats, and in the 3 years of ownership of that car, I think we used the third row of seats once. So I'm not so sure how useful that is if you want a true 7-seat car. I just don't think there's enough room. And for me, that means that if you are looking at Tayron as an option, I think the 5-seat variant is the one to go for, because you get plenty of room in the back row of seats for 3 rear seat passengers, probably in most cases 2, and you get more boot space. And I just think you have the options then of all the different drive trains that they've got. It may well be you want the plug-in hybrid version, or the more powerful petrol or diesel engines, and I think you've got the choice then. As I said, you've got to applaud VW for bringing a car like this to market that has 7 engine choices, not battery electric. I love the fact that this car has engine choices. I think from a pricing point of view, like all cars, it's pretty punchy, to be honest, but it does feel nicely put together in here. The choice of materials in this R Line spec, and that is the top level trim, is nice. It feels nice. It feels like a nice place to be. I'm not a fan of the infotainment screen. I'm not a fan of the lack of buttons. I think I've made myself pretty clear on that one. So all in all, it's a kind of, there's bits of it I like and there's bits of it I don't. I'd love to know what you guys think. what you guys think. I think my challenge with this car is the Touareg, because I'd rather spend a little bit more money and have a Touareg, because I think with the Touareg you get that extra bit of off-road capability, because those things are brilliant off-road. When I drove the facelift Touareg, must be 12-18 months ago now, we did some really major off-roading. It's brilliant at towing. It'll tow 3.5 tons. I just think it ticks more boxes for me. This is kind of almost, it's that in between, and I get the Tiguan because it's the smaller, more compact car. This kind of sits in between those two, obviously, but it also sits, it's like a compromise between those two. So I think you either go for Tiguan and just accept the fact it's going to be a little bit smaller, or spend a bit more money and go for the Touareg. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.